structure which was there. So I kind of rearranged the frame, and then I had a particular evening color, wash of colors to depict a evening mood in the background. This is again a frame in Konkan, in the western coast. Konkan happens to be my grandma's place, so we often visit Konkan during the vacations. If you see over here, I have kind of completely changed the technique of doing layers or working with a watercolor wash. So here I have kind of taken a brush and completely worked with strokes, but at the same time I've tried to maintain the transparency. And the interesting element to this particular frame, I wanted to, so there was a particular trees of areca nut, which were seen in the frame, but I thought this vertical strokes of this areca nut trees is something that really adds a dynamic nature to this particular frame. This frame is very much stable. So this particular vertical elements, they really add to the frame. And hence, by adding this, I kind of accentuated this particular effect that I wanted, or that I wanted to depict of strokes and of dynamism. Yeah, this is again a frame in Konkan. This was a evening along the Konkan coast in Ratnagiri, and so what I saw is about this extensive extensive shades or extensive layers of colors during the evening, and then there was a stark orange, a stark orange color that was seen in the sky, which I kind of accentuated. And at the same time, what I try to do is that if you see over here, there isn't any depiction of a horizon. That is something that the sky and the water or the sea coast. So I've kind of tried to merge it in such a way that indirectly there is a horizon that is seen, but it is not depicted. And these elements of boats which are there, and the vertical kind of supports that to tie the boats, these were the additions that I did, which according to me completed this particular expression or the mood that I had when I saw this frame. This was for this I did for an illustration. Actually, it was for one of my professors for a poem, and in this he wanted to kind of depict longing or waiting for someone, because the poem was related to that. So over here I had this particular frame of a house, and then I added this monsoon effect to it, or the rain to it, and then to give it a more to add an effect of that not negativity, but that the person sitting there is probably waiting for someone, and he's scared or she's scared. I've added this tree on the left, which you see. So this tree kind of sprawls onto the house, and the tree is definite. That's why it's depicted in a very dark, or in black. And even the style in which the tree is drawn is something which you might not see in the other works that I do, or the other landscapes that I've done. So the next one, this is particularly for the Diwali greeting that I had done to gift my German friends. So over here, this is a particular scene which is seen along the ghats of the rivers in India. And for this particular painting, if you see, there is Diwali is about depiction, or it is basically celebrated during the night as well as in early morning. So lights play an important role. So of course, one of the idea was to kind of have illumination in the painting, but at the same time, if you see the reflection in the water, it's multicolored. So I did it very rapidly. So I had my palette besides me, and I completely added colors, random colors, which I wanted them, and then I allowed them mix on the on the paper. So this is something that is also possible with watercolors, or rather that is really interesting, that you don't directly use the colors, but rather you mix them on the paper in such a way that you get a particular hue, or you get a particular tone to give that express that particular mood. This is something that depicts the cultural landscapes of Maharashtra. So over here, in the summer season, I always used to go for a walk on a hill near my place, and the land, and every day in the morning or in the evening, whenever I used to go, I used to have this strong feel of rugged or very dry landscape. So this particular expression, when I did, I purposely did not use any wash technique over here, and I directly used the brush, a dry brush, as well as a brush with some kind of a color with some kind of water, some amount of water, and I then kind of compose this in such a way that the two trees in the frame a particular human which is walking up in this stony landscape. Yeah, so this particular painting was exhibited in Germany, and here, so it was an evening related to Indo-German Art Association in Mannheim, and I presented it for an art gallery, through an art gallery called Indo Art Gallery. And over this painting, the title of this painting was and a warm afternoon in winter in India, or in so over here I've kind of taken this frame. So over here, if you see the stark sunlight on the house, and so the mood is like it's a comfortable afternoon. There are two women working, and then you have a stark sunlight on the structure or the house. And if you see on the left side, I have kind of had a very transparent but a very strong wash of cool colors. So this particular aspect kind of tries to get in these two elements of it being a very sunny afternoon, but at the same time it's a winter afternoon. So basically it's also a bit cold, a bit more comfortable. Yeah, so this is the stepped wells is the most interesting, and I think so it interests everyone who's studying architecture. But when I saw this frame, I kind of deleted all the other details and I just followed the geometry of the steps. So here I have not considered any of the decorative aspects which are done on the surfaces. But I just depicted the geometry, and the most interesting aspect, because this again painting was for this particular event in Germany, and here the important aspect is about this woman in the sari, as well as the kind of the red, the green. It's very accentuating. It's very strong. So this particular aspect of social gathering that women have, so this aspect was like, okay, there is a step well, there's a kind of social gathering that is happening, and this relates to the culture. So this is a very minimalistic depiction of and not really the actual depiction of what one sees, but it's a very minimalistic and abstracted depiction which the people from other culture, they also appreciate, and they also get to know about socializing in the villages, or with respect to our culture. This was again a frame which was in Konkan, and over here this was a backyard in which there was this traditional chula, in which so I kind of wanted to have this early morning feels where you have the sunlight. So if you see in the background, there's the landscape which is shown. It's very transparent. It's very subtle, which kind of shows that the light is infiltrating from the background. And then this particular barrel which is there has an edge which is completely white. So this particular aspect helps me to add this light element and kind of deliver the mood that I wanted to show through this painting. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite paintings, which I did for my friends this for my first Christmas in Germany, and this was a frame in Essen, but I completely changed it. So there is a outskirts of Essen called Essen-Werden, which is said to be the beginning of Christianity in Germany. So it's a very historical place. The church is historical. So over here, I kind of had the spire of the church, and then I arranged these houses which were there, which one sees as one approaches Essen-Werden. And I arranged it in such a way that it kind of helps this tower to be accentuated. And when I completed this particular expression, I added a moon on the top. And this particular the spiral strokes, they help me to kind of express this feel of something positive coming up, or a light, which is a moonlight, which is kind of creates a Christmas mood, which is being thrown on the particular the housing structure over there and the church. And the yellow element to the trees. So I mean, in winter, like in Christmas there is snow, but I purposely did not have this white element on the trees, but I added a yellow, as I wanted to show that this particular element comes from the sky in the form of spiral, from the moon, from the sky. This was done in Venice. It was along the main islands of Venice. So I happened to be so we had a drone, and then we were doing some drone photography. So this is not something that I have actually done. But when I did it, this was during the afternoon, that the photograph that I had. So I completely changed the sky over here, and the mood that I wanted to depict over here was something that is really romantic, which is in the evening, which is not very. So over here, if you see, the sky has a completely different role, and the reflection in the water is just about Venice, about the structures. This was in Cologne. Cologne is in the western part of Germany, and Cologne Cathedral, I think, or the Kölner Dome, is something that is really famous, especially for students of architecture. So many a times I stay nearby, so I visit this particular place. So when I always visited this place, this Kölner Dome, or the Cologne Cathedral, is located exactly at the main outside the main station, Cologne station. So if you see over here, I think there are two things that always kind of took my attention in the frame. So one was the Cologne Cathedral, and the second was the statue of the Kaiser. So over here, what I did is I wanted to depict this early morning situation wherein the sunlight kisses the spires, and at the same time, I just wanted these two elements to kind of dominate my frame. So at the same time, if you see, there is a wash below the Cologne Cathedral, and I have kind of used very fine brush strokes to kind of depict the foliage of the trees and the branches, which kind of doesn't make the frame look very plain, add certain elements, but at the same time, the statue of the Kaiser Wilhelm and the Cologne Cathedral is accentuated. Yeah, this is a completely abstracted expression, I would say. This was during the winter time. So in winter time, if you see, there is snow everywhere. So what I did over here is, but sometimes you also kind of see that the trees, or in the parks in Germany or in Europe, they have a very interesting geometry that they show. So this particular situation wherein there was a long pathway, and then I added this particular seating bench to it, and I purposely accentuated the shadow of a tree, and I chose a color palette which was related to blue and white. This was again to depict a mood. This was in terms to a song, a Marathi song, which talks about night, moon, and longing and romance. At the same time, if you see, I have completely changed I have made the trees white. So this particular accentuation for and making the trees white kind of is my addition to it to depict that it's winter, it's snowing, and but at the same time you don't see the snow on the floor or on the branches of the trees, but the trees itself are white. This was again, I was passing by, I was traveling through a train, and then I saw a particular village in winter. And so it struck me that, oh, I can paint something in which there is the rest part of the window through which I'm viewing this particular frame is cladded with snow or has snow. And at the same time, this particular settlement which is seen there is kind of accentuated. This I kind of was done and was presented during for the New Year's. So that's why I kind of had this violet or purple or lavender color scheme for the other parts. And I have kind of purposely used yellows and browns to kind of complement to this particular color scheme that is shown. And I mean, for the structures, I've used these colors, and the others is particularly done with violets and lavenders. And this particular spray, which I generally do with a brush, is to depict that it's something which is very fairy tale oriented, as well as it depicts the snowflakes that come on the window. I generally do not use very strong black in watercolor. So if I have to show something really dark, I kind of mix blues and browns and in different water with different water proportions, and then I kind of show the darkness. But over here, what I've tried to do is that I have used this. This was from a photo taken by a friend of mine, and what struck me is that in the photo there was stark black for the trees, and the ground, because of the sunlight, the ground was really light. It was kind of with sap greens, yellows, and so hence it kind of really struck me, and then I chose to depict this frame, or to draw this frame on my paper. And here I could experiment as to how I could use black. And for this, when you use black or a monochrome method, it's very important, and it's very difficult sometimes to kind of maintain this particular effect, because then you have to use different proportions of water and different kind of brushes, as well as different kind of strokes and layers. This was in Salzburg. So many a times what I do is, if I'm visiting different places in Europe, I particularly depict frames which are not very famous, so which probably you might not see the photos on Google. So this particular bridge if you see in Salzburg, is a very famous bridge, and it's covered with locks all around. So it's a kind of a thing over here, which is also there in Cologne, that you basically put a lock for a person on a person's name, and you throw the key in the water. But this particular frame, I thought it was interesting because of the form of the bridge. It's a very sleek bridge, which is like a horizontal element in the frame, and there were two churches behind it. So over here, I was there in the evening. So when I did this, I purposely avoided using orange. So I probably used here only 2 or 3 colors. So I mostly used crimson red, blue, cobalt blue, and a bit of brown. So I just wanted to experiment with these 3 colors as to how I can depict the particular evening mood that I wanted to show. So yeah, this is how it is. And the humans over here were also an interesting element that I saw, because there are a lot of people who stand over there. So the people stand there not to see the landscape or the skyline, but to basically put the locks. This was in Dresden, and it was really hot. It was really hot in Germany, and we were in Dresden, and I saw that this particular dome in Dresden had very stark sunlight. So what I did was that I wanted to kind of depict this stark sunlight on using transparency, but at the same time I did not want to have a show from where the sun is coming. So the sky here, if you see, is completely blue. Then what I did is I used yellow ochre and different shades of yellow, and I kind of maintained a transparency. At the same time, I completely darkened the foreground. So if you see the trees over here, they are very dark. So this kind of helped me to give depth to this particular paint expression, as well as kind of show what I wanted to show about the heat or the sunlight which was there in this particular plaza in Dresden. This was when I was traveling to a site, and I saw this particular frame, and and on my way back I stepped down over there, and I saw that the atmosphere over there was very relaxing. It was very calm. It was very relaxing. So I had a ballpoint pen with me, and so what I did is that I kind of thought that, okay, I will probably use different types of lines in such a way that they depict this particular calmness or the relaxed atmosphere over there. So this particular painting is a completely different style that I normally do, and hence I also try to experiment with different mediums or mixture of mediums. So this is done in ballpoint pen, and when I came back home, I kind of just added some blushes of colors to it. This is a cultural landscape scene in the outskirts of different cities of Germany. What kind of attracted me for this particular frame, or to paint this particular frame, is the retaining wall that goes along the slope. And so over here, in order to show the contour, I have not done much of effort. But this particular wall that is there, and the difference in the green, the shades in the green. Again, if you see, there aren't different greens, so I have not used different types of greens, but I have kind of changed the proportion of water, and I have kind of changed the brushes, as well as the way I apply the washes, and this kind of helped me to depict the contour. And this house which was there was something that really so it just stands there. It doesn't dominate the frame, but it really adds to the frame. So this particular house, I did not touch much, so I have not detailed anything on it. This house was made of, it had a stone on it. It was made in random masonry. So, but I deleted everything of that. I just kind of added a door and 2 windows and kept the house very simple. So this particular expression talks about very minimalistic cultural landscapes, but at the same time, it shows this expanse. This is a lake, and over here what I wanted to show is a strong mood of autumn. So that's why the kind of color palette that I chose was orange, yellows, blues, to complement it, blues. So in actuality, if you see the structures which are seen on the other part of on the other side of the lake, they are they were having different kind of roof materials, but over here I kind of added this ultramarine blue to it, so that it completely complements the color scheme, and it kind of sets itself in the background. And then I have in the foreground this strong shades of orange, browns, and yellows. Okay, so this was again exhibited in one of the exhibitions in south of Germany, and this particular was again titled as a golden winter. So if you see in winter, there are certain situations in Germany, probably mostly in winter, the atmosphere is very dark, gray, and dull. But sometimes it happens that when there is this transition from autumn to winter, there is a complete different feel of or a complete different atmosphere when you're roaming. So in this particular painting, I have tried to show this afternoon time, which is a bit warmer, which is having a bit more warmth in it. So if you see the way I have kind of put yellows, or I have added yellows, yellow washes in this particular painting, kind of helps me to add to this particular mood. And if you see at the same time, the sky is a bit gray, but the transition is very smooth when I've added this particular yellow. It's mostly yellow, yellow ochre, and gamboge yellow or lemon yellow. And the trees are done in blue, so they are dark because it's still winter. And in this, though the trees have leaves in which are generally yellow in autumn, but at the same time, I have kind of changed it. I've changed the entire atmosphere. In the entire atmosphere, I've added yellows at different parts, but the trees I've made them with blue or dark. This was a special situation, which I kind of really thought of putting on the paper, in which I was sitting in the evening on one side of a lake, and I saw a swan, and the light was coming from the other side, and because of that, the swan, when I saw it, was completely black, and I was like, yes, I should definitely put this on paint this on paper, and hence I kind of deleted everything else, and I focused only on the swan. And then as the swan which was there, which is seen, because it is against the light, it's seen darker. In the background, I added different kinds of reflections. So you can see there are large number of trees which are getting reflected. So there is a lot of dynamism or a lot of hustle that is happening in the background, because of which the swan, which is there, which is in its own world, is particularly highlighted. This was done in the Harz Mountains. This was around a year back when I'd gone for a trek. So I would like to mention that for some of the paintings, I do them on when I visit, when I have the materials with them. But otherwise, I kind of whenever I go, if I see an interesting frame, I kind of sketch it in my sketchbook, and then when I come back, I get back to the particular area. So where I have gone, what kind of things I'd seen, what mood what kind of feel that I have when I visited this particular place. So where, if you see, when I visited the Harz Mountains, they in summer, they are really they are not very green, but they have landscape in which it has a lot of bluish green flora and fauna. So whenever this castle, when I saw the castle, and when I came back, I wanted to show this particular feel of the Harz Mountains, which talks more about blues and greens, lesser greens but more blues. So if you see the castle, of course, the roof of the castle is exactly how it is right now. But in the background, if you see, I have more of yellows and blues and oranges and lesser of greens. I had gone for a trip in Lübeck. Lübeck is a city in the north of Germany, and the interesting aspect, it's a very small town, I would say, but there are 7 churches. So if you see from one side of the river, you can see 7 spires or 7 churches. And this particular aspect I wanted to, so this river which you see is River Wakenitz, and this aspect of the spires I wanted to depict. But at the same time, I wanted to add an expression of longing for this, or the mood of longing to this particular element. So if you see, I've added this girl on the in the foreground on the left, and then I have a very small graphical human on the other side of the bank. So this particular picture I gifted to a family in Lübeck who had invited me, and so this is something that is really unusual. So okay, one can understand that these are the spires of the Lübeck, but this particular painting, then I would say, or the expression, has its own speciality, or it has its own own composition or a unique composition, because the elements that I added, they are mine. And this particular situation is probably not there in Lübeck, that a girl is there and she's looking at someone on the other side. But yeah, this mood that I have created is my own, and hence this particular expression kind of gets its own, becomes unique one. I also kind of do illustrations based on poems in Germany. So yeah, in German, I would say. So in this case, I there was a poem which talks about I would try to explain it in English, that this was from by Masha Kalko, and the poem says that when you are in an ocean or in a sea, you need only one island to kind of to kind of rest or to be there. You and in life you need a company or a human, but you definitely need it. So this is something that kind of caught my attention. I wanted to express that, and hence over here I had, when I read this, I had this image in front of me that okay, I have an extensive sea, I have an island, but over here I have only used two colors. So if you see, I've just used blue, and at the same time I have used yellow and yellow ochre and brown, mostly yellow ochre. So this particular mood that I wanted to create is by using only these two colors. So hence did not add any other color. Yeah, so this is again from Lübeck. In Lübeck, along the river, there is a very famous view that everyone enjoys of this brick houses, of this four brick houses. Over here, I've tried what I felt was about this strong presence of brick as a material and the river. So that's why I kind of chose not to use any other color, but the brick red and the blue, the cobalt blue. Hence, I have not tried to detail out any things in the facade, but at the same time, I kind of I'm able to express that okay, this is brick. There is a strong presence of brick which has been reflected in the river, and at the same time, there is a so only two elements. There is a sky. There are these houses and the river. Okay, so this next one is about a situation in Travemünde. Travemünde is a beach along the on the northeast coast of Germany, and along this beach there is a there's a distinct landscape feature that there are a lot of pebbles and stones. So one can find a lot of pebbles and stones, and these huge long barks of trees which are fallen down along the shore. So over here I was there, and I was what I tried to add to this particular frame was that these two pebbles or stones that you see on the bark. So this to depict a couple sitting over there. So there was actually a couple sitting over there which I didn't want to draw because I wanted to depict something. But to represent them, I've kind of added these two particular elements, which also become a catchy element in my frame. This painting is added here to basically show that when you use watercolors, or when you kind of when you want to create a particular mood through watercolors, it could be very, very simple. So over here there isn't any much layering. There's just one. So I added water to the entire paper, and at the same time with a brush I randomly had the strokes, and I allowed the color to kind of flow to kind of have flow on the paper with its own the contour that the paper had, So the form that comes up is something that it's on its own. So where if you see there isn't a stark distinction between the horizon which is there. So the landscape that is seen. So this is particularly easier, or it's more doable with watercolors. Of merging different things, in a single go. So you don't have to put layers on layers. This is an English garden. and I was at a higher elevation, and what I could see, what I wanted to show is that there is a transition from summer to autumn. So and hence I kind of had the opportunity to have this very blue sky, and at the same time I had this opportunity to kind of use ochres and browns and crimson to show a particular mood, which you can see on the right side in the foreground behind the bridge, of autumn, the mood of autumn, and the rest is a bit more summer. So if you see, if this transition from summer to autumn is unique because you have different shades in the landscape, as well as you have the sun, which is normally not there from the transition from in autumn to winter. Yeah, so I also kind of work like in working with details as in. So if you see this, as I said, Indian classical music is something that I also uh, like to pursue, or I am a harmonium player. So the same time, what I tried to do here was I was listening to an composition by Ravi Shankar, and at the same time I saw I didn't know that it was Ravi Shankar. So I was listening and I was doing my work. So then when I saw who has played this, so I was like, it might be Ravi Shankar, but when I actually saw them, it was by the cover on or the YouTube channel. It was by Pandit Purbayan Chatterjee. I was like, huh? So it means that there's the shadow is important, or who is playing. I could not recognize it. So this particular thing kind of inspired me to do this, wherein I don't see the man who is playing, but I just see that, okay, what he's playing is a sitar. But at the same time, there is a man playing, which is reflected in the shadow. So over here, the medium watercolor helped me in two ways. One is, if you see in the foreground, the sitar is very opaque. It doesn't have any transparency, so it kind of stays in the foreground. But when I have the layer of washes in the background, I can see the shadow which is there is depicted through that. So the shadow is still transparent. So it kind of creates this effect of or the transparency kind of adds to this particular picture in such a way that the background and the foreground is still differentiated. Yeah, this particular situation was from a Kathak dance. So if you see, there is always a crescendo in Indian classical music. So where you have to play, when you end a composition, you have to play, or when you end your dance phrase, you have to kind of play a particular composition or a particular set of notes for 3 times, and then you end. So when you, and it is called as sum. So when you come on sum, I found that the legs stop, but at the same time there is a movement in the drapery, because the drapery doesn't completely stop. So this particular detail I wanted to kind of express. Again, I would say that this particular expression I've done in 20 or 25 minutes. The time that is only required for the layers to dry. So I think it's more about spontaneity. So I did not work on detailing as to what kind of material the dress has, what kind of texture it has, what kind of design it has, but I kind of focused on this aspect of the concept of movement. And for me, I think watercolor really helps me to quickly and spontaneously depict what I want to show. And I think it's more about minimalism. So you need not have to depict what is actually seen every time. So there's not necessary to that I depict what kind of fabric design this particular cloth has, or what kind of texture it has, or what kind of floral design it has. Yeah, this situation was recently when I had water in glass and I had kept it in front of a river, in front of a window, and it was raining, and I saw that there the scene behind the window was completely blurred, but there was something that was getting reflected in the water. So that was really interesting, that I thought of I could put it on the paper. So if you see, I have purposely kind of kept the detailing minimum outside, of course, outside the window, but it is not just washes. So I had a layer first, and then after that layer getting dried, I had again put applied water and try to use brush in such a way that I just give a hint of, okay, so the spire which is there would be a church. The green slope that is seen could be a grassland. So a hint as to what elements they are, and this is how it was possible for me to depict this fuzziness in the background. And this particular was a bit rearranged by me. So we were in a cafe, and what interested me was there were these two. There was a brownie and there was a cheesecake kept. And I thought that, oh, this is interesting because brownie has a completely different texture, and the cheesecake, it has a completely different texture. So if you see the cheesecake in the center, this cheesecake has it has a surface which is a bit shiny, but at the same time it has this, you get a feel that, okay, it's something delicate. So this something was really challenging for me, and I thought was challenging for me to put on the paper, and hence I kind of painted this frame out. There was a Christmas party at an office, and I had a glass of wine, so it was basically a white wine. And then when I kept there, I saw that there was a candle behind, which was kind of completely changing the color of the wine. So I thought that, oh, it's interesting that in this I kind of can work on the detail as to how I can show the glass, but at the same time I can quickly show that there is this ambience of yellow light in the frame. So this is how this is what interested me to paint this. This was in Lübeck. So Lübeck is very characteristic for its roses. So there are rose climbers along the facades of the streets, and hence there are cafes. So at different corners you have these rose frames which are there, rose climber frames. So over here, what I did was to kind of I added this girl on my own. So this kind for me completes the picture, that you have or the feel of the picture, that there is a girl who's sitting there in isolation waiting for someone, and then you have a rose frame which is there in the background, which actually exists in Lübeck. There was a woman playing harp. What I thought was about the colors of the clothes that she was wearing. So she was wearing crimson red top, then a very light orange skirt. And what I thought was that instead of working on the details of the nose, the hands, I thought that I could use watercolors, and I used a cartridge paper for this and not a rough texture paper to kind of depth. So if you see the washes, they are still when the paper, it does not absorb the color. You have this cloudy feel that when you use more water and color on this particular paper. So in this particular case, I had this glatt finish which I wanted by using this paper, first of all, and second of all, I did not work on depicting the details, but quickly putting on coloring as to what I saw. Yeah, so this is one another detail. So this is a periwinkle flower, which is a zoomed in version, and if you see the dewdrops which are there, so the dewdrops was something challenging I've thought of, and the light and the sunlight. So over here I wanted to work with only two colors. One was the magenta or the violet, and the other was blue. So in here I have not tried to use any yellows to depict sunlight. But at the same time, I have kind of used white, and I have merged the white or a wash of white in such a way that I can show that there is sun behind or sunlight behind. And at the same time, this particular dewdrops which are there on the petal. So this particular picture detail talks about delicateness. And if you see in the center of the flower, I wanted to have this point wherein which shines, because the sunlight which was there, it was making it shine. So over there I've only used a bit of yellow and white. Yeah, so before ending my presentation, I would like to end with this particular frame. So this is something, this is all about me. So I believe, so this is so this is a frame that is talks more about my comfort zone, you know. So this particular detail is about, if you can see a tanbura which is there, you can see, so over here I have used a glass marking pencil and then watercolors. So this particular painting kind of depicts the mood that I wanted to show, which I could not have showed if I would have had pure watercolors. And yeah, so this is all about about me as a human, as a me, and what influences my paintings. So what I would say is that an art which is created by an artist is always an expression of what his inner life is as an artist, what he feels, what he thinks of, what he has inside. So, and this particular inner life is always his personal vision of the world. So how he sees. So I would definitely like to mention that when anyone wants to paint, you know, or when wants to explore watercolors, I think it's really an interesting medium which one can use to express what one wants, forgetting about the technique, forgetting about how good or bad it comes out on the paper. But it's something that is really spontaneous. So you really spontaneously create something, and at the same time you leave a lot of room for interpretation for others and even for yourself. So yeah, thank you for it.
Thank you, Architect Sarvesh Salkar, for giving us such an enlightening session. We all really loved your presentation. Now it's time for us to move on to the question and answer session.
So any question? So I will begin with the question
I request all the participants to use raise your hand option available at the bottom of your screen. We'll call out your name. At the time you can unmute yourself to ask your question to the presenter, or you can use chat box to post your questions.
So is there anyone? Okay, let me begin with the question. Okay, are you able to hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I wanted to know, like, on an average, how much time you take for a painting like this? The one which is shown here in the background.
Yeah. Okay, so for this, first I would mention that I mostly work on paper size, mostly on A3, and not more than that, because it's easier for me to carry wherever I go, and it's easier for me to handle watercolors with A3. It's rarely that I do A2. So for A3 painting, right from sketching it out on the paper, I take around an hour's time for a painting like which you saw in the background right now.
And who is your inspiration at such a, or who is your what you call artist, favorite artist?
Yeah. So I have. So when I started doing it, I did, of course, a workshop with Milind Murik, who is a very renowned artist. And then currently, I mostly follow an watercolor artist named Thomas Schaller. He is from an American artist, and his paintings they basically work on this principle of what he has to show to the viewer or the person who's seeing the art, and he has this element of getting light by leaving white on the paper.
Thank you. That was really a wonderful, refreshing kind of session, and really a treat for viewers. That's what I believe, because I personally enjoy artwork very much, and it really relieves you from any tension that you are going through, because you really get absorbed in the work that is done there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. If you have any audio problem, use the chat box option.
Has everyone, I hope everyone liked my work, because I'm presenting and I don't know if people have liked it or not. It's a personal taste. So I know Mr. Chakradev likes my work, but I don't know about others.
Yeah, someone can make a comment, because
yeah, if
very
someone
important.
doesn't like, then they can definitely. So it's also good to have critique.
Hello, sir. Everyone is liking your presentations. Very nice. So it's not the question of liking or disliking.
No,
Everything
I'm
is
just joking.
fantastic. And
No,
your work was so impressive. We could not able to even ask questions. That much impression we are getting it from your thing. It's very nice presentation. Wonderful works and arts have been shown by you, sir. Really.
Thank you.
Thanks for your good presentation.
Thank you. And I think for architecture students, okay, someone, Manju Arjunan. The question?
Madam, you can read out the question.
The question in the chat.
We have two comments. One is from Miss Manju Arjunan. Nice work, give tips for the beginners. And then from Miss Grace Trivena, it was a really good, great session. Loved it so much. So my question is, do you directly use watercolor, or do you do a rough pencil sketch before coloring?
Is he online or already connect?
Disconnected, sir. Participant, please wait.
Yeah, he's joining.
Diksha, inform everyone to wait.
All the participants, please wait for your answers. So participants, keep posting your questions in the chat box. We'll get back to you.
network issue. So it's trying to connect. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm back.
Yeah, Dikshita, read out the question.
Okay. So we have few questions in the chat box. I'll read them out. First one is from Miss Manju Arjunan. Nice work. Give tips for the beginners.
Yeah. Okay. So I think for beginners, it depends on what kind of exposure you have is the first option. So when you start, I think you can start with smaller stuff. So it depends on what you want to paint. So Miss Manju, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
She is
Okay.
Professor Manju. Yes.
Yeah. So Professor Manju, I would like to mention that, okay, if so, for example, first, what you want to use watercolors? Do you want to paint landscapes or portraits, or what kind of painting is one thing? Secondly, then you can start with the basic techniques of doing watercolors. So the basic techniques is about the control on water and brush and color. So what kind of proportion of water, what kind of proportion of color you need to use to create different kind of effects. So over here, I would like to say that the first is so you work in 3 layers. So in the initial process, when you start with it, when you have a painting or a sketch on a paper, what you do is you apply water and then you have the first layer. So you put the colors, and in this particular stage, you don't mix the colors in the palette. Actually, you kind of let them mix on the paper, and then you let it dry. So I think what you can for the beginning, what you can do is you can start painting out smaller frames and very less complicated frames. So frame for if it's about landscapes, you can start painting the scenes that you see in your surroundings, and then what you can probably get it. It's difficult to express in words, but I think it's more easier if you see a demo. So that's also one more tip. There are a lot of good watercolor demos which are already there on YouTube channel or in the books, which you can see. Yeah, but at the beginning, it's very much important to basically get a control over how to use water and colors. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The second participant is Grace Trivena. The question is, it was a really great session. Loved it so much. So my question is, do you directly use watercolor or do you do a rough pencil sketch before coloring?
So I do a pencil sketch, but it is just suggestive. So for example, if I'm drawing a structure, let's say a cathedral, I don't draw each and every detail of it. I don't draw for example, if it has any motifs on it, I don't draw it. I do, it depends on what I want to show. So I do a very light sketch in pencil, which probably might not be seen also. Yeah. But yeah, pencil is required. I don't directly start with colors.
Thank you. Now the third participant is Miss Akila Rajmurthy. So amazing presentation. Understanding architecture and converting into art was very good. Love the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that I think because I gave a presentation on another platform, but it was difficult for me to convey this because we all are students of architecture. So that's why maybe you could appreciate it more.
Then Ananti Tangaraj, sir, it was an amazing presentation. I personally love working with watercolors, so it was a great inspiration for me. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Participants, any more questions, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, there is one question by Sunil sir. Yeah.
Mr. Sunil Sri, very inspiring. How could you suggest a regular practice to students?
Yeah, for students, I think what they can start doing is in order to get a hand over using watercolors, they can start rendering their perspectives for in colleges for the design. So I think it's something that is the first, because that's how I even started. When I was in the first year, I used a lot of watercolors to finish my perspectives, my design perspectives. So, and apart from that, I think it's a really interesting medium for architecture students, because they can definitely depict very spontaneously and very quickly as to what they want to show. So for students, I think what they can do is they can have regular practice sessions in which they first start watercoloring the buildings or the kind of other designs that are doing, and then then proceed ahead. And then probably they could also find a connection in between what they want, how they can extend it for doing other aspects in paintings like landscapes or portraits or other expressions. Yeah, I hope it answers the question.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you want to talk, use the option raise your hand. Then there's another question from Miss Grace Trivena. I have another question, sir. While doing watercolor, what according to you is more important, the quality of canvas or the quality of the brush used?
I think the quality of the paper. So when I'm doing watercolors, I mostly do not use canvas. I used a rough texture paper. So it's a handmade paper. So you have different brands which give the paper. So it's a bit more different from the canvas. And I think it's really important because, as I said, when you saw this painting of of the lady playing the harp, it was done on a paper which does not absorb water. So this particular handmade paper for watercolor has a property as to how much water it can absorb. So I think more than brush, paper or on what you are drawing is really important. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now Miss Afrin Banu, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi. So first of all, I want to say amazing work. Like all your colors complement each other and it looks beautiful. So I want to know about your journey, how you started first, because even I want to start watercolor, but I don't find the motivation or inspiration to do it. And the lack of control of what like,
Yeah.
I want to know how you went through this journey.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I started when I was in the 10th standard. So I mostly used to do at home with my father. As Sir said, Mr. Chakradev said that my father is also an artist and an architect. But I interested myself always for landscape painting somehow. I don't know, from the beginning. So I think it's really important to understand what you want to first draw for. For example, some people you can even do doodles and use watercolors. That's completely fine. And even using watercolor for doodles is also challenging. You can have a range of things that you could show. But I think is important, first of all, for you to understand what you want to show. And for me, I was interested in landscapes, and then I started doing workshops. So I did a workshop with Milind Molik when I was in the school, and then later I started experimenting on my own, And then slowly, it's a long process, and it's a long time that I slowly got control over the brush and the water and the color. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So I hope it answers your question.
Dikshita, please continue.
Okay, sir. Let's wait for some time. Some more time.
There is one more question, Dikshita. Please read out.
Okay. So, Mr. Sunil Sri, sir, one more question. How much architect students should incorporate manual works in this digital era?
Yeah, I think it's a question of a great debate currently, but I think definitely yes, because my personal experience is that so in our college, we were not allowed to do a lot of things till the 4th year, I think. But yeah, you should be smart enough to understand where you want to use your hand skills and where you want to use the digital skills. So for example, when I work currently in the office, so my office doesn't prefer perspectives or renderings which are done on softwares, and rather we submit a lot of hand work done to the clients, especially for the concept development projects that we have. So I think it's a combination. So it's a smart use of hand skills as well as digital. But yeah, when you do it by hand, I think it's very much personalized as far as presentations are concerned. And I think when you're designing with the hand, it's more interesting that because when you design with the hand, you design with a proportion and not with a scale. So there is a difference when you design with proportion and not with a scale. So when you're doing it in a software, you design with a scale. And when you're doing, so I think I think hand works in hand skills or hand presentations, they really are amazing. I believe that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Participants, any more questions? Either you can type the question or you can unmute yourself and ask.
And Dikshita, if there's no question, you continue.
Okay. So, thank you for being patient enough to answer all the questions. So now I request Kadambari to deliver a vote of thanks.
A good teacher is like a candle, it consumes itself to light the way for others. So happy Teachers' Day. As all good things come to an end in life, so is the webinar. On behalf of the students, I take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. At the outset, I thank Architect Survey Sarkar. We are really enlightened with your watercolor knowledge and presence. Thank you, sir. A heartfelt thanks to our students for active participation. Once again, thank you all. One life, be safe.
So I would like to say thank you for all of you for joining this session on large numbers. And again, I would like to thank MIDAS for giving me this as an opportunity to talk out what I want, to verbally express. It's a bit difficult. So maybe I might not have been right in expressing what I really want to say because I'm an artist. So I express better with my hand and on paper than my words. So yeah, thank you again, once again. And I hope the session was helpful for you and has inspired many of you to start using watercolors, especially for your works in your academics. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our head of the department, MIDAS, Professor Justin, to deliver vote of thanks.
So, good evening, everybody, and good evening to the presenter.
Thank you.
Very thank you, because you have just taken us into a journey of things. Like you have almost taken us into the feelings that you had. I think that is a wonderful part of this art. Within a simple A3 sheet, you could have made us feel what you were feeling and what we understand. And as you said, there are a lot many interpretations which can happen in that single sheet of work. I think that was the wonderful part of it. And personally, I felt very happy because I think this is the first time, maybe for a few more people in this crowd also, listening to an artist on his works. We have seen and we have witnessed enough of arts, but we have not heard so much with the artist. I think you being an architect turned artist, I think you could understand the vibes of our architecture students, and it was so well explained. I think you conveyed the best of it. And that was the wonderful part. And one thing I got inspired with your personal things, like I was just wondering how vigil you are in all your travel, and you are so sensitive in always observing things. I think that is one quality required for any creative person. That is a lesson for our students on this day, I suppose, because everywhere, though it is a personal journey or you're trekking, everywhere I could sense that you are very focused in your observations, and I think you are so a cool-minded person, because everywhere, in spite of your travel and in spite of your trekking, also you are so cool and you wanted to observe things and you wanted to put it on paper. So I think that is the best thing that we learned for this evening in this day, because there is where we start, the creativity starts. That's what I believe.
And I think, thank you. Because I think, especially for architect students, for people who are architect students, it's really a boon, I would say, that they can really explore and through a different eye. It's not something that normal people explore. So, and when you combine, so I think for me, it is really a unique thing, because then whenever I see something, I really see it through a perspective of an architect plus an artist. So as you said, it's really a different and that's what helps me to make my painting look not exactly what's seen over there, which is that, but which has its own uniqueness.
I personally liked your final title that talks about yourself, because once people can think about that, when somebody can answer that question of who I am, I think that is the best part of life. You have just given a fine touch to your presentation with that slide. I think which is completely away from all your paintings, which does not have any color, which is completely away from all your regular works, which means that your personal is completely away from all this. So nice journey, sir. I personally liked your presentation almost for the past 1 hour.
I'm glad
it was taking. Yeah, you have taken us into a different world of things. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time, and on behalf of MIDAS, we thank you for this efforts that you have put and your time, and thank you for that, sir. Thank you, then.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. I request all the participants to kindly fill up the feedback